Flip to Freedom, episode number 48. Hello again, this is Sean Terry from the Flip to Freedom podcast, and we are on episode number 48. Now, if you're listening for the very first time, I'd like to welcome you and let you know that I have designed this podcast for you to help you escape the 9-to-5, get out of the rat race, quit your job, be done with corporate America, and go out and live a lifestyle of freedom. Now, you're going to learn how to do that by flipping properties in your spare time with no cash and no credit required. People go, how the heck can you do that? It's literally finding a motivated seller with either equity or no equity. It doesn't matter, as you learn that in this particular episode. Find a motivated seller, and then you turn around and hook them up with a buyer, whether a cash buyer or just a buyer, and you have two contracts, one for one price, right? And one for another price, one for 50 grand and one for 60 grand per se. And then you turn around and you take that to a title company, and you instruct them to do an assignment, a double escrow, whichever may, and then you'll get the difference. The buyer will wire in that $60,000, of which $10,000 goes to you, and the $50,000 goes to the seller. You made $10,000 on that deal. Now, that is the whole premise of the Flip to Free. The goal is to get 1 year's worth of income in the bank for you. 1 year's. To do this, to go out and get, if you make $50,000 a year, the goal is to get $50,000 of cash in the bank as fast as possible. Okay? So now, in this particular episode, I'm so excited. We have another case study interview with a gentleman by the name of Brian Senart, and he is out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, closed on his first transaction. And what you're going to learn is, in this particular episode, you're going to learn exactly how he found the deal, and you're going to learn exactly what he brought, how he negotiated with the seller. You're going to learn that this particular deal has no equity. You're going to learn how he made $9,000 on a no equity deal, spending only $50 on marketing. This is a sick episode. He goes in, I pull every detail out of him on exactly how he did this transaction. You're also going to learn that there was a transaction prior that blew up, and how he dealt with that and how he worked his way through it. And he was literally days before closing from making another $8,000 deal, and the deal literally blew up, and what happened there and how he handled that and how he overcame that. So this is going to be one of the best episodes. You're absolutely going to love it, because we cover every aspect of a transaction from a guy that's 24 years old. He's never done a real estate transaction before. He doesn't own a house. This is his first ever deal, and he walked away with the closing table with a little over $9,000 check, which is just incredible. So now, I also want to thank someone who actually went into iTunes. They went into the iTunes store, they searched Flipped to Freedom, Flip the number 2 Freedom, and they submitted a review inside of iTunes. And that really helps out a lot. I can't tell you enough. It actually pushes you in the rankings. And actually right now I have 47 5-star reviews, and I need 2 more, and I'll be the number 1 rated podcast in iTunes. I have to get 49. 49. So if you're on the fence and you want to put a review in after you listen to these couple, 2-3 episodes, and you think I deserve it, please go in, put a review, and push me over the top as the top-rated real estate investing podcast in iTunes. So anyways, now, this came in on April 29th. It's from DJR1108, and the headline says, the title says, "Subscribe Now," 5 stars. "This podcast has absolutely changed my life. I recently began searching for ways to build wealth and to get out of the rat race. After several weeks of attending seminars, listening to other podcasts, and reading a few books, I stumbled upon Sean Terry in the Flip to Freedom podcast. The material was more detailed than any other I had encountered. What was the most helpful, however, was the passion and energy that Sean spoke with. His motivating words ignited the fire within, compelling me to take action." Cool. With his ebook as a guide and his encouraging words from the podcast, I was able to generate a lead, set set an appointment, make an offer, and in less than 10 days. Sweet. Awesome. Although I didn't get the deal, seems the seller wasn't as motivated as she said she was on the phone. It was proof positive that Sean's system absolutely works. In the upcoming weeks, I'll be ramping up the marketing efforts, closing my first deal, and dropping the JOB forever. Thank you, Sean, for what you do, and keep up the fantastic work. See, that is awesome! I love to hear stories like that. The guy went out and he took action. He went out and took action. He went out, he put some things out, and see, guess what? Not every deal, not every lead that comes in is going to be oh my gosh, you're going to make, $9,000 off. It's a sorting process. And if you listen to the past couple episodes, I talk about how to sort the leads that come in. You sort them to motivated, and you only focus on, you sort them out, non-motivated and motivated. And you only focus on the ones that are motivated, and then you can structure stuff. And what you learned in this particular podcast or this particular episode is that Brian did that. He was able to ask the right questions that I showed him how to do and taught him how to do, to go out and find the motivation. And with that motivation, you can structure and do a lot of creative things, which is phenomenal. So, if you'd like to learn more about me and get my free book that he was talking about, the Detailed Blueprint, it's 129-page comprehensive. I mean, I leave nothing out. I pretty much break down an entire blueprint of what you can do. And with the podcast and that blueprint, you literally can go out and start this business and start cranking it out. But you can go to flip2freedom.com, flip2freedom.com. You'll see a video of me on the front page. Tell a little story of how I got started in the business, and you'll see where you can enter your email. And what I'll do is I'll email you a special link where you can download this report for free. It's not a report, it's a book for free. And like I said, I've got a ton of great response, a ton of great reviews from people that all the time are emailing me, calling me, saying, "Oh my gosh, it was incredible, changed my life. That was great." So again, thank you so much for submitting that review. And if you'd like to get that book, please go to flip2freedom.com as soon as you can. And now let's get into this episode where we are going to talk to Brian about how he went out and closed his first ever real estate transaction and how he did it. So let's do it right now. All right, this is Sean Terry, and I got an unbelievable interview for you today with a gentleman out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, who closed on his first transaction this week, and he is super excited, and we are going to bring the nitty-gritty to you and basically tell you exactly how he did it so you can apply some of this information in your business. So I am on the phone with Brian Senart, right?
Yep, that's right.
There we go, Brian Senart. Sounds good, Brian. We've been talking a lot on the phone, it seems like, lately, and it's been exciting to see you in your path and what you've done, what you've accomplished in such a short period of time. But let's start off, Brian, about you and what'd you do before you got into real estate, I guess, or what's your background?
I was still self-employed, but I sold insurance with multiple different companies, health and life insurance.
Wow, cool.
So,
and how is that? My father-in-law is an insurance agent. He's been for like 25 years for State Farm, so I know how. And in the first couple years, he was telling me where his first 5 or 6 years it was so difficult because you're actually trying to build a base, of premiums actually coming in. So how'd you get into insurance?
My dad is in insurance. He's got his own agency for over 20 years, and
wow.
So it was real easy to get started with that, and he had a big client base, so I just helped him out, but it wasn't right for me. I wanted something different.
And why was that? Why something different? Was it the going to work every single day, or is it kind of following in Dad's footsteps, or what was it made you want to do something else?
Yeah, I wanted more. Free time. I wanted more time. He spends a lot of work, a lot of time at his business and
right.
everything, and I didn't want that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, cool. And so you went on a search, right? And then searching for what, though? Were you searching for, did you know it was about real estate? Did you want to do, how'd you pick that?
I've always been interested in real estate investing for probably several years. Always reading books and reading different stuff, and always heard about, wholesaling and different kinds of creative financing and all sorts of stuff like that. But I just graduated college and back in last May.
Right.
And I was searching for something to do. I mean, I was doing insurance with my dad, but that's not what I wanted to do. I was trying to find something that would interest me. So I was like, well, I can't even remember how I got searching on the internet. I know I found you through Joe McCall, actually.
Yeah, Joe McCall, awesome gentleman, absolutely. And he is wholesalingleaseoptions.com is where he's at. So yeah, so you started searching, looking for something. Now, what's your real estate experience? Do you own a house? Have you bought a house? Have you ever flipped a house before?
Never. I rented.
You rented?
And yes.
And lived with the parents, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you've never bought a piece of real estate, never owned a piece of real estate, never flipped a piece, so you've never made a dime in real estate at all, ever?
Never.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, so so you tripped across me, and what basically intrigued you about, I guess, my program more than others?
Basically because you can. Basically, it boils down to you can make more money wholesaling than you could doing like wholesaling lease options, or that was basically what it boiled down to. I know wholesaling would be harder, but I knew you can make more money at it.
Right.
And you had the experience. You've done your fair share of transactions, and that's what I liked as well.
Okay. And did you start listening to the podcast at all? And once you hit the site and you found out more?
Mm-hmm. I started listening to the podcast, listened to all the testimonials on your website, and at the time, the academy wasn't open, but it's a perfect time. It just opened up, and I said, okay.
Perfect. Cool. So you got involved and you got excited about it and got going. Now, when you started your, because obviously the first steps is to understand the whole concept, which you had a grasp for, either through listening to the podcast or the videos or through your other education. But then it came to going out and doing some marketing. What did you pick for an avenue of marketing when you first started?
I did yellow letters.
Okay, so you did yellow letters to like an absentee investor, inheritance, or where?
Exactly, both of them.
Okay, so you did it both of them. Okay, so now, for people listening, it's interesting, and why I like this story so much is because Brian actually got his first deal locked up, and it was days before closing, within like the first 3 weeks of us working together and him getting started in the Flip to Freedom Academy. But so his first 3 weeks got going, and he got this deal. Now tell me about this particular deal that came in. You got a call off it. Was it an absentee owner or was it inheritance?
It was off the inheritance list.
Okay. And there was this guy, right? This guy called, and tell me the details on the house. The house was how did you know he was motivated?
I knew he was motivated because the house was vacant. It was his mother-in-law's, and it was vacant. They didn't want it anymore, and they wanted to sell it. They had no reason to keep it. They didn't want to, be a landlord or anything like that.
Right.
And they just wanted out. They didn't like it being empty. They were worried about people, possibly someone getting into it and messing around with it. So they just wanted to get rid of it.
Right. Okay, so that was a sign. Now, did you do any type of talk numbers at all first time on the phone, or you just sensed they were motivated and you set the appointment?
Mm-hmm. I just sensed that they were motivated. And I asked them what a ballpark figure they were looking to get out of the property.
Smart.
And they gave me that. I didn't take it any farther. I just set the appointment.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'm telling you one thing about Brian that I like so much is that he pays attention and he actually follows and he does pretty much exactly the system. If you do that, you'll get the results. And one thing when it comes to taking calls from yellow letters, the whole objective is to sort into two different piles, leads into two different piles. You got a motivated lead, you got motivated leads that come in, and then you have not motivated leads that come in. Well, the non-motivated leads, you kind of put those on the side and you focus only on the motivated ones. But if you have a serious motivated person that calls in, you don't want to start negotiating on the phone. I typically go and I just set the appointment. I'll set the appointment, and then he did the perfect thing by asking the ballpark price, because now if they're way out, if they're giving you signs of motivation, like the house is vacant, they got inherited, and they just want to get rid of it, and then you ask for a ballpark price, and they're way higher than all the comparable sales. Well, obviously that was an education process to teach them through the education. Now, I would probably still set the appointment because I could educate them on what's going on in the market because they have that motivation. So actually you did the absolute perfect thing there. Okay, so you set the appointment, you went to the house, and what happened?
Set the appointment, went to the house. Beforehand, I got low comparable sales, the lowest of the neighborhood, and I had probably about 4 or 5 of those.
And where did you pull those from?
I pulled those off of Zillow.com.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead. And so you pulled the lowest of the low comparable sales of properties that sold, okay, and you brought those with you with your contract, and you met them at the house, and how'd that go?
It went great. They showed me the house. They showed me all around, and built rapport. And then we finally sat down at the table, and I showed them the low comparable sales, and I said, this is what's recently sold in the neighborhood. And after I showed them the low comparable sales, I said, I'm going to have to be, around these numbers.
Okay, so you have to be around those numbers. And what was their counter?
They didn't have much of a counter because they kind of, basically it was a great situation. Usually, they would have, someone would be like, oh, that's way too low, but they really didn't have a clue what houses were going for in the area. So they're like, well, that's what they're going for,
Right.
So we need to sell it, so let's do it.
Okay, so there was here. This is what we need to be at, and what was that number? Wasn't that like 18.5 or 17 something or something like that?
It was around 19.
19. Okay, so it was $19,000 for a house, $19,000 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and that's what you negotiated. And they didn't really balk. They said okay, and you pulled out the paperwork, and you sat down and signed the paperwork right on the spot, right?
Yep.
Now, how was that? Was that a little intimidating? Because that was your first deal. You never did a contract before, right? So.
Oh yeah, it was really intimidating before, the whole process, because their ballpark figure was $30,000, and so knowing going in there that I have to get them down that much, plus being my first appointment, was really nerve-wracking. But I just fake it till I make it, and went in there and told them what was selling, and they said, oh, well, that's what they're selling for. And wrote up the contract. Didn't really know what I was doing, but did everything that you said.
Right.
All the out clauses and everything in there, and have them sign it.
So they signed it, right? So you were leaving that appointment pretty excited. You were like, I got under contract. And then you turn around, opened up escrow, and then you had to find a buyer, right? You had to find someone that's going to buy it. Now, what was the size of your buyers list at that time?
At that time, it was probably had about 70 to 80.
So 70, 80 people, and that was primarily collected from free ads on Craigslist. Is that right, if I remember?
Exactly, yes.
Okay, so he's built a list of 70, 80 people off of Craigslist of posting, free ads on there, and built this list. Now, what's your list now, would you say?
My list now is upwards of 120, I think.
That's awesome. So you've continued to add buyers to it. Okay, and then, so you brought it, and what did you do to market? Did you blast your email list? Did you just post ads on Craigslist? How did you get the thing out there?
I didn't even send this property out to my buyers list. I made up some signs that said must sell house fast, and put the bed and bath and my phone number, and put one out in front of the house and all around the neighborhood and on the main streets, and immediately got flooded with calls.
So you got flooded with calls off of just bandit signs. And you actually put it in front of the house? That's pretty brave. I haven't done that before. If we actually put it, well, unless it's an out-of-state owner, the house is vacant, I would put it in front of the house. But I haven't done it when actually the owner is in town. So okay, so you got a flood of calls. Then what happened?
I told them how much it was, and that it was a cash offer, and finally, but then about.
And what were you selling it for again? So you're contracted for 19.
I had a contract for 19.
Right.
And I was selling it for 28.
28. Okay, so it's about 10,000 or 7,000. What is that? Yeah, about $9,000 spread there. Okay. All right. Now, wait, back up with them. Did you have to put earnest money down with the seller?
No.
Okay.
No.
So you just signed a contract, no earnest money. So how much was out of pocket, when it came to this, to actually doing the deal with a buyer? I mean, it was just, you're talking some marketing money on some bandits or some, marketing money on some sending Yale letters and stuff. But you didn't have to fund or find transactional funding. You didn't have to line up a loan or anything like that, right? You just signed a contract even with no earnest money.
Exactly, yeah. All I had was yellow letters and bandit signs.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so then what you did is you found out that a buyer called, and did you take the buyer over to the house? Did you meet him at the house, and what did you do there?
Yes, they called me. I met him at the house. The house was empty, so I had a lockbox on the house. Mm-hmm. But I met him there, and I showed him the house, and they were really interested in it, and they said they wanted it.
Okay, so did you have a contract with you?
Yes.
Okay, so you had a contract with you, and what did you ask for earnest money deposit?
On this house, I asked for $1,000.
Right. So you asked for $1,000 earnest money deposit, which was non-refundable, right?
Right.
And then you signed a contract, and then literally you had your bandit signs that you had was your marketing money there. Then you took them both to the title company, right? And yep. What were you going to have them do? Were you going to do an assignment? Were you going to do a double escrow?
I was going to do an assignment.
Okay, so an assignment, guys, for you guys who are listening, is where you literally assign or sell your contract for a price. So he was essentially going to sell his contract or assign it for a $9,000 profit. Is that right?
Right. Yes.
Okay, and that's very easy to do. Very simple. Title companies do that all the time. The other alternative that I asked him was a simultaneous close, or what's called a double escrow, and that's a little bit more complex. That's when the buyer brings in the $28,000. They fund the transaction, and of which $9,000 goes to Brian, and the balance goes to the seller, but it's done within two different escrows. Okay, and the reason you do that is sometimes profits are bigger, and if people see the type of profit that's made on the deal, sometimes they balk. Okay, so now let's get into what happened. So you had all this. How many days before closing before this thing blew up?
It was probably within 2 days.
Yeah, it was like 48 hours, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 48 hours. And now, they were having, wasn't it like a rummage sale they're having on the weekend, or some sort of estate sale?
Yeah, they're having an estate sale on the weekend. The weekend on a Saturday. I think we're planning to close Monday or so.
Right. So it was a Saturday, planning on closing Monday, and what happened is the seller was having an estate sale, and the buyer, right, went to the estate sale and went to the house. Yeah. Right, yep. So the buyer actually conversed with the seller, and now, guys, just FYI, this is very, very rare. Very rare this ever happens, but obviously it does happen. So they conversed, and we don't really know what happened, what they talked about, right?
Right, we don't.
We don't. Okay. So then, you thought everything was fine, closing on Monday, and then you get a call from the seller saying what?
Basically that he doesn't want to sell it anymore.
So he doesn't want to sell it, and because he wants more money. Now, I actually got on the phone with the seller, and I talked to him, and it's basically the bottom line is that they talked to the buyer at the property, and the buyers are probably innocent. They came up and said, oh, yeah, we're so excited, we're going to be buying the property. And I'm sure they said, hey, oh, great, oh, that's interesting. Say, great, what are you buying it for? Well, they said, you're buying it for $28,000. Well, the seller got greedy on there and said, hey, I'm not going to sell the thing because, I want to get all the money is basically what he said. Completely unethical. He signed a contract for a price, and now he wants to back out of that just because the guy wants more money. That's obviously not ethical. Because Brian went out and did the work to find the buyer. He could have tried to put bandit signs out, and he could have talked to the 40, 50 people that Brian did. He could have sorted them out. He could have got the non-refundable. He could have got them under contract. But he didn't. He found Brian. They negotiated a price, and Brian found the retail buyer. So obviously he deserves to get that higher price. So what happens is he said he wasn't going to sell. I'm not going to sign the paperwork. Being unethical or not. So that deal blew up. Now, how did you feel when that thing was done? When the guy was like, nope, I'm not doing it. How did you? And I talked to him and couldn't get him around. I was pretty aggressive with him too. How are you feeling then?
I felt really bad because it was my first deal. I was really pumped that we were going to close here in a couple days, and all of a sudden, just completely fell off the cliff. And I was pretty upset.
You're pretty upset. So, did you go into like a depression for like 48 hours?
Probably 48 seconds.
48 seconds, right. So, and now, were you thinking about quitting it all at the time?
Absolutely not.
No quitting. See, that's the tenacious attitude that you have to have with this business, because it will test you. It will test you to the hilt and see how bad you want it. Okay, so that deal blew up. For 48 seconds, you were bummed. You recouped. You got yourself together, and then because obviously there's and also people are listening. There's deals, all over the place that happen. I have deals that blow up. It's just I have a bunch of deals in the pipeline. The majority of them close, and some of them blow up. Not all the time. Things happen. You do whatever you can to push it through, but it's just part of the business. Now, the thing that hurts on this particular deal of having it blow up, it was Brian's first deal, and always having your first deal blow up is devastating, but you have to recoup, and you have to pull yourself around and get the motivation to go out and find and talk to motivated sellers and do it again. But once you've done 500 plus transactions like I have, it's just part of the deal. It's just like, oh, okay, but you push, to do everything that you can do to push to get that deal closed. But hey, sellers aren't going to do. So what did we do in this particular situation? So what we did is Brian actually recorded what's called a memorandum of sale. And meaning he recorded public notice that he has a contract on the property. Now, the seller is an essential default because the seller didn't come in and sign paperwork per the contract that was signed. So once you record a memorandum of sale, it encumbers the property with a recorded instrument. Now, Brian can release it, at any time. Let's say they call him up and they say, and they want to try to give him a hassle for whatever, he could release it. But he, for me, if I know I have a situation, the seller's trying to, is trying to, either comes along. Like I've had a seller come along. I signed a contract, and we're about to close, and they call up and they say, hey, I found a higher price. I'm going to sell it to somebody else. And I said, well, no, you're not. I said, I have a contract on the property. We're going to record a transaction. You won't be able to sell it to anybody else because, we agreed I'd put some time and energy, effort, and money into this thing, and we're going to close on this thing, or I'm going to record an instrument against the property, and you won't be able to sell it to anybody else. So what's going to happen is if this guy, the seller, tries to sell it to anybody else, they're going to pull a title report, and the title report's going to show Brian on there in his live contract, and he won't be able to sell it to anybody. So what happens is the seller is going to call back Brian saying, hey, you got to record a thing on the property, and says, yes, I do, because we signed a contract and you backed out. And he's got two different ways to do it. One, he can execute on the contract with Brian and sell the property, and then Brian can find another buyer. Or two, he can pay him off and say, hey, listen, you know what? Pay me $4,000, $8,000, whatever it is, and I'll release my thing. Or Brian can just, says, hey, I'll just release it, and that's fine. So those are your different options on there. Okay, so that's what we did with that property. So that one now is just sitting there. The seller might come back or might not. So now what happens is you went out and you continued marketing. So what'd you do?
Continued sending out more yellow letters to absentee owners, and at the same time was getting leads coming in off of Google Adwords.
Cool. Okay, so what happened? So you had some Google AdWords. Now, Google AdWords is paid advertising that you can do on Google for specific search terms. People search in Google for, we buy houses or buy my house or sell my house fast or whatever, and then your ad will actually show up. People click on it. It'll go to a custom landing page that I pretty much give you in the Flip to Freedom Academy and walk you through the entire process of setting it up and keywords and stuff like that. So a lead came in, and so this particular lead came in. How much ad spend did you spend on Google before that actually lead came in?
Probably about maybe $50.
Okay, so we spent $50 on Google. So this particular lead came in, right? And how did you know? When did it come in? How did it come in? What happened?
It came in with, in the form they list the address, how much they owe, phone number, email, stuff like that. Immediately got onto Zillow and checked it out. I saw that it was they just canceled the listing. It was listed with the realtor for 6 months or so, and they couldn't sell it. So I just called them up and just talked to them and asked them what the situation was, and they were actually already moved out of that house. They were living in another suburb of Tulsa, and they needed to sell it. They had a mortgage on it, and they were paying 2 mortgages now.
Okay, so for people who are listening, they clicked on the ad and they went to what's called a landing page. And on the landing page, they got basically one option: get off the page, or they can enter their information. So they entered their information, their name, their email, their telephone number, their house address, the property square footage, and how much they owe. So, and then as soon as they press submit, Brian got an email through his email or on his phone, whatever, and then he went and checked through Zillow to figure out the comparable sales. Now, inside there, they said what? A loan amount in there was it 62?
Yes.
Okay, so they owed 62, and you pulled comps, and what was the comparable sales?
It was basically worth what they owed. It might have been worth just a little bit more, but.
Okay, so there was literally no equity in this deal.
Right.
Okay, so they owed 62 and it was worth 62, 63, whatever, when you pulled on Zillow. Now, most investors would go, I'm going to pass on this deal and let it go. But what made this deal different? What made this deal different? What do you say, Brian? What made it different from a pass to not a pass?
Because after I talked to them on the phone. I knew they were motivated.
There you go. Boom. See, man, you're a good learner. I'm very impressed, Brian. So what he did is he tested motivation. He found out they're highly motivated. They're motivated because of a circumstance. They just bought another house. They had another one vacant, and they could not pay 2 mortgages. So there was definite motivation there to where then he could offer a creative solution. Okay, so you got off the phone, you talked to them, right? You talked to them on the phone?
Yep.
Okay, and it was a husband and wife, married couple?
Yes.
Okay, and then, so you just talked to the wife or the husband?
I talked to the husband, the wife first.
Gotcha.
and told her. I informed her about the contract for deed deal that we could, the option. I gave them that option, and she said, "Oh, I like that. Let me talk to my husband about it." And she did, and then he called me back, and he had some more questions. I followed up with the questions, and I said, "Okay,
Perfect.
yeah, that sounds like something we're interested in." So I said, "Okay, when's a good time I can come out and take a look at the house, and we'll talk about this a little bit more."
Great job. And then you set an appointment, and what happened then?
I set the appointment.
Now, what did you bring with you to the appointment?
I bring a contract, authorization to release.
Yeah. And now you had the authorization so you could get the mortgage information, so we can get the basically get the payoff on the property, right?
Yes.
Okay. And the contract, did you actually have the contract for deed, or just have a purchase contract?
I had a regular Oklahoma residential purchase contract.
Gotcha.
That I filled in the additional, the contract for deed stuff.
Okay.
The seller agrees to convey title via an agreement for sale.
Yep. Just like we talk about.
On the
Okay.
back of that, yep.
So you took that, and so you had that stuff. You're in the car, and you go over to the house, and you meet with them. And how'd that go?
It went great. The house was in great condition, which works really good for agreement for sales for retail buyers. It was all remodeled and everything. It was really nice condition. And they thought about it a little bit more, and we talked about it right there at the house, and they said, okay, well, it's the best option. We had it on the market for 6 months, and we can't afford to be making 2 mortgage payments, so we signed the contract.
So how did you explain this whole contract for deed? You sat down with them. Did they know what it was, or is this something you had to kind of walk them through?
I had to walk them through it.
Okay.
They knew a lot about it after I talked to them on the phone, but
Sure.
I completely went over from the start again at the house.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of explained that, and did you go through their options, or you just said, here's what I can do? I mean, did you go through the whole foreclosure option? Did you go through the short sale option? Did you go through the bring cash to the table option? Did you kind of go through the bad options first and then lead them into this one, or you just said, here's what I can do?
Yeah, I didn't say anything about the foreclosure and the short sales. I basically said that I wouldn't be able to find an investor that's going to pay cash for it because of the amount you owe.
Right.
There is another option, and then they would ask, what's the other option, and then I tell them.
Okay, then go on then. Okay, good, perfect. All right, so then you signed the contract. You got the letter of authorization. What did you get from them? That's it. Did you get like a mortgage statement? Did you get their last bank statement or mortgage statement? You got them to sign that, or no? You just got the contract and the authorization.
Exactly. I just got the contract and authorization.
Okay. So then you took that to your title company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now, did you take a bunch of pictures of the property? Did you arrange something to where you could put a lockbox on it? How'd that work?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I got the keys from them. I told them that I'd be putting a lockbox on the property. It had an alarm on it, so I got the alarm code. I took, 50 or so pictures of the property, and I did that all at that first meeting.
Okay. Now, how did you get them to give you a key so you could put a lockbox on it? I get that question all the time.
I just told them that if I'm going to, because the house is empty. They live in a suburb of Tulsa, 30 minutes away. I was like, I'm going to have people that are interested in this house, and I'm going to need to show it to them. So I'm going to need access to the property.
Right.
That's basically what I told them, and they didn't have a problem with it.
Right. Okay. Perfect. All right. So then, how much earnest money did you put down?
I didn't put down none.
None. I've got this. I got in the last episode. I said to Andre, because like, how much are you? You got to have earnest money. Everyone's is like, dude, I don't ever put earnest money down ever. When you're dealing with a motivated seller, you don't put earnest money down. Now, if you're dealing with a bank, it's a different story. But with a motivated seller, it just doesn't happen. All right. So you took the contract, you went to the title company, opened up escrow, and how did you find a buyer?
I, again, put out signs that said house for sale, seller financing, and my number.
Yeah.
And I also posted on Craigslist.
So you post on Craigslist, you put signs up. Now, did you get a lot of calls off the signs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got not as much, but I did get several calls off the signs.
Okay. But the house is in good condition, and you showed it. And then where did the actual buyer come from?
The buyer called me off of what I put on Craigslist.
Okay. Now, what did you put on Craigslist?
I made a little ad off postlets.com.
Postlets.com. It's a free service. You can actually make a really cool looking flyer. It gives you the ability to put all the information about the property. And also you can put up pictures on there to make it really like a nice little e-flyer that goes inside. And also Postlet syndicates it through Google Real Estate and other different sites on the web. So when people search it, they can find it. So you put that, made it look real pretty, and put that in Craigslist. And a guy called you, right?
Yes.
And then how did that whole thing go? How did the conversation go?
Basically, I explained to her that it was a seller financing, that they would take over the existing mortgage, and they would have to pay a down payment. And they said okay, and they wanted to look at the house. They liked the details. They wanted to look at the house, so
Okay.
I met them and showed them the house.
Okay. So you met them at the house. They saw it. What did you bring with you?
I bring another contract with me,
Right.
and that's it.
So you brought a contract with you. You met them at the house. They kind of walked through. Did you do any type of sales pitch on them or what? Or just like some voodoo mind tricks? Or did you just like, here's the house?
I said, here's the house.
Yeah. So you said, here's the house. They walked around. They were interested. They like it. And then what'd they say? How'd you close the deal?
I said I would need a earnest money deposit and the contract, and sign the contract. I kind of did some sense of urgency there. I said I got a lot of people interested in the house, so it's the first one that gets me the earnest money deposit.
Very good. Very good. Now, do you see what he did there? It's a negotiation tactic called fear of loss. So what he did was he said, listen, I've got a ton of other people interested. It's a first come, first served basis. First one that gets me the cashier's check is going to get the house. Now, obviously you don't do that prior to them seeing the house. Now, they're there. You know, the wife's walking around, the husband's walking around, their eyes are lighting up. They're actually putting furniture in their mind in the house. So they're emotionally involved. And they say, listen, I've got, 5 other people coming here. So listen, if you want this thing, you got to jump on it. And there's that fear now of losing the property to somebody else. So what happened then?
They said okay, and they said okay. Well, I'll go ahead and get the cashier's check, and I'll get that to you.
So how quick did they do that?
That was in the evening that I met them. They got it to me the following morning.
Okay, perfect. So you met them that night, and then the next day they had that cashier's check for you. Okay, so now you had a buy side contract, right? I mean, sell side contract, and you had a cashier's check. You brought that to title, right? Yep. And instructed them to do a double escrow, right?
Yes. So
you wanted to do a double escrow. So let's talk about contract. You had now, how much did you agree to give the seller at that initial meeting?
$2,000.
Okay, so now the seller tried to sell the property for 6 months. If they would have sold the property and got a contract on it, they'd have to come to the table with money, okay, just to get out to pay realtor commissions, closing costs, and fees, and that's if they got a full price offer, right? So now, so now you come in and say, listen, not only can we do your house, but I'll give you $2,000. They're like, okay, where do I sign, right? So now they're getting money out of the deal. So that gives you a purchase price of, say, what, 64? Roughly?
Yeah, roughly 64.
Okay, so you got roughly 64, but here's the key number. The key number is the $2,000 that of cash needed in the deal. Purchase price is almost irrelevant. Okay, it's now obviously you wouldn't want to have a $60,000 house that have a purchase price upwards of 90, 100,000. It's going to be very difficult to sell. But in this particular case, when you're right at a property that's at value, and they owe what's at value, and it's literally par, then the most important thing is the minimal down that you give the seller. So the key number in this particular scenario was $2,000. Now on your sell side, when you're dealing with the buyer, right? How much did they put down?
They put down, well, in this situation, they put down a total of, I think,
12,000. Okay. So they put down $12,000, of which, right? Now, out of that 12, that's the total money coming into the deal. Out of that 12,000, there had to be closing costs that were paid, and what was roughly closing costs in the whole transaction?
Just 13, I think.
So 1,400 right?
Right.
And then 1,400 that came out of the 12, and then the balance out of that would go 2,000 to the seller, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right, 2,000 seller, and then the balance was yours. Left over that was the balance. It was yours, your net profit, which was roughly what?
Roughly just under 9, I think.
Right about $9,000 or so. Yeah, because you pay the closing costs, you give them the fees, you know what I mean, $12,000, $2,000 to them, $1,000 fees, so it's like 98, 8,600, something like that, or 9,000, whatever. So that's your basic now. And when did you close on that deal?
I closed on that deal Tuesday.
Tuesday, right? And today is Friday, right? So basically 3 days ago, right? So 3 days ago, you closed on your first transaction. It could have been your second transaction, but the seller went bananas on the first deal, right? But you persisted through it, you closed through it, and you got it done. Now, there was another obstacle that came up, and the obstacle was with the title company, right?
Right.
Because the title company couldn't wrap their head around the whole double escrow scenario, which sometimes happens. Now, what I always say is, listen, find an escrow company or a title company or closing attorney, whichever state you're in, and make sure that they can do all these transactions prior to bringing them contracts, right? And the thing is sometimes they say, oh yeah, we can do that. That's no problem. We've done that before, just to try to get you in the door and get your business. And then it gets down to the nitty gritty, and they're clueless and don't know what to do. So in this type of situation, you first started off doing a double escrow, a simultaneous close, right? But then at the 10th hour, what happened?
Basically, I had to do an assignment at the last minute.
Okay, so you did an assignment at the last minute, which is okay. That's completely fine, acceptable. But you did an assignment at the last 10th hour. So you're going to be finding another title company, I assume, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a key important fact, is having a good title company that knows how to do transactions. Like this, so that you can get them through and be done smoothly. So, all right. So now you got your check. Were you pretty excited?
Oh yes, I was really excited.
So now you got it, and you believed it worked, right? You knew it worked.
Yeah.
But it validated the whole thing. So what was the whole closing like? So Did everybody come in all at once, the buyer, the seller, and you all sat down and had a nice chat, or what happened?
Well, in this situation, yeah, we all came in at the same time.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I've never done that. Okay, so you had a big party at the closing. All right, so the buyer came in, the sellers came in, and you were there all at the same time?
Yep.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, and how'd that go?
It actually went very well. I was worried about because doing an assignment and everything like that. I was worried about how it would go, but the seller was just motivated to sell it, bottom line, and the buyer was really excited to get out of the apartment and get into a house. So
Yeah.
Um,
So it worked out.
it just worked out.
Wow.
Everyone was okay with everything.
Wow. Wow. Typically for people who are listening, that never, ever happens. What a title company, and this is weird. I remember when I first got started, I would be like, well, how does this hold? Does everybody come in at once? And how does that work? And basically what typically happens is you have the buyers or the sellers that come in and sign all their paperwork at one appointment, and that could be at, say, 11 o'clock in the afternoon. And then the buyers come in and they'll sign, and maybe at 3 o'clock in the afternoon with the same title lady, they'll sign all their paperwork and they'll wire in their funds based upon what's needed. And then you'll typically come in and sign your side or whatever paperwork you need to sign, all within that time frame. Sometimes I would go in with the seller just to make sure they're comfortable and everything is good on their side. I rarely ever go in with a buyer because they're just, unless it's like a retail buyer like you did with that. But I don't think one time out of 500 plus transactions I've done, I've ever sat down with a seller and a buyer and myself and closed the transaction. So that is awesome. That is to be able to dance your way through that one was great. But guess what the key point was? The key point was you had a motivated seller and you had an excited buyer. So
Right.
it made all sense. So
Yep.
so now you got your first check. Around $9,000 or so, right? And you off a deal that had no equity deal that you spent roughly $50 in advertising for, right? Through Google Adwords. It came in on autopilot. So the lead came in on autopilot. You turn around, you got the deal. Now, was there any competition for that deal? I mean, was there other 4 or 5 other investors lined up to try to make an offer for him, or what?
No, absolutely not. No.
Right. So how many people do you think in your vicinity or county are people that have properties that have little to no equity?
Probably quite a bit.
100, yeah, so tons and tons. Tons. So I mean, it's a viable way to have that part of your, see, I always teach the market for high, deep discount properties where there's tons of equity. And then you have the option to scale into doing these contract for deeds or agreement for sales, and then either do wraps or notes or whatever. But it gives you the option. It's another tool. Most people would have passed up on a deal that had no equity in it. But he was able to turn that deal because there's a motivated seller and structure it correctly and provide a great property for a buyer to come in and still profit $9,000 on the deal. So that is absolutely awesome. So now from here going forward, how do you see your kind of, now that you've done your first deal, you've went through the process actually almost twice now. How do you see this laying out and how old are you?
I'm 24.
Okay, you're 24 years old. How do you see yourself laying out? Doing this. Where do you want to take it?
Take it as big as I can. I can see me doing lots of these agreement for sales. I really like them, as well as wholesale deals as well. I could see myself probably doing, 4 or 5 a month.
Okay, 4 or 5 a month, and let's say you just average, say $8,000 a deal. For 5 a month times 8, that's $40,000 worth of profit right there. Right? I mean, that's, how many of your friends of yours that are making, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month, working for themselves?
More like a year.
More like a year. Well, what did you make a year before, like with you when you were working with your dad?
I was in college, so basically probably like $15,000, $20,000.
So $15,000 to $20,000 and on one transaction you made 50% of your entire year's income off of one deal. Right. And this is just the beginning. I mean, I think you're going to clean up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, because it's a wide open market there. So you're going to clean up. You'll be the go-to guy when it comes to wholesale properties. And you'll start. What happens is in this business, you start marketing. You're putting yourself out there. You start getting leads coming in off referrals. You get, you'll get people that are going to call you a month from now from mailers you did 3 months ago. You're going to get people that hit your site for Google AdWords, and they're going to write down your phone number, and then they're going to stick it in their file, and then they're going to call you up. So what happens is you build this momentum, And the way I teach in my system is have, especially on online marketing, is people hit the website, they fill out their information, and you have an automatic 1 year's worth of automatic follow-up that automatically follows up with these people, right? And then I get leads that come in on autopilot from these people that have hit the site, and this automatic system emails them, and I turn around and they call me up and said, "Hey, I just got your email," which I didn't send because it was on autopilot. "I just got your email, and I've been trying to sell it. We talked a while back, but I'm ready now. What can we do?" And I get leads like that all the time, which is just awesome. So once you start building an engine, like a marketing engine and momentum, then it's very easy to go out and scale it to doing 1 deal, to 2 deals, to 3 deals, to 5 deals, and stuff like that, and keep on going. So, well, hey, Brian, I can tell you this: I commend you for having the tenacity and the vision to go through that first transaction of literally being kicked in the gut right 24 hours before you're about to close. The thing blows up. The guy got greedy and backed out of the deal. But guess what? That will come around. How it comes around, who knows? But it will come back around. And so I definitely got to commend you for your tenacity in that situation. Keep on going. So,
thank you.
Now, for the people that are listening, right now, think about this. There's people on the phone, or people that are listening on the phone, on the podcast, or listening to us right now, and they're, maybe driving in their car. They're going to their job that they hate, or maybe they're a college kid, and they're trying to figure out what they want to do, and they hear you, a 24-year-old college kid that took a no equity deal, structured a deal, and made $9,000 on the deal, and is now, going to build a business. Because now you can take some of that money and put it, toward marketing, even more, and turn out and generate more leads, and then you'll get more deals coming in, which is great. But for someone listening that is saying, "Hey, is this really possible? Does this really work?" What would you tell them?
That's absolutely possible. The only reason it's not possible is it'd be because of them not doing everything, not going through everything, and not persisting through, because it does work. And if it doesn't work, it's not the system, it's the person.
Right. Absolutely. So it's so you tell them, so it definitely does work, and the only way really, if they just don't apply it, because people come in and they go, "Oh, I'm excited about it. I want to do it. I want to be successful. I want to be like these guys. I want to be like Brian. I want to make $9,000 off a no equity deal. I want to do it with him." Okay, great, and they get excited, and they turn around and they start digging in the material, or they start applying some stuff. And then maybe they send out 100 letters or 200 letters or 500 letters, and they don't get that deal that comes in. A lot of people quit. A lot of people quit. You know what I mean? So, for that person, what would you tell them? I mean, you almost want to shake them and say, "Listen, you have the greatest opportunity that I think we've ever seen on this planet right now. For the timing of what we have right now, it's one of the greatest opportunities that we'll ever see." How do you shake someone and say, "Listen, you can do this if you just persist through it"? I mean, I get frustrated, because I see all these people with potential, and I'm like, holy cow, just hey, listen, it's okay, just keep going, and you'll get the deal. Once you get your first deal, do you feel a lot better now that you know that it can be done and you've done it? And now it's almost like an expected. You're going, okay, you were just waiting for that. You knew it was going to come.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And you expected it, and now it's just how to ramp it, right? How to ramp it and get it going.
Now it's just how fast I can get the next one and the next one.
And the next one, keep going from there. So that's
Exactly.
awesome. Cool. So that's it. So any last words you'd like to tell the listeners of the Flip to Freedom podcast that you'd like to say?
If you're thinking about joining the Flip to Freedom Academy, do it. Sean has so much information, so much videos in the academy, so much knowledge, and it's definitely worth it. It's not easy. You have to work at it. It's not a get-rich-quick thing or anything like that. You have to work at it, but it is worth it. The opportunity is there. You just have to recognize the opportunity and grab it and run with it.
Seize the day. That's
Exactly.
my gotta be able to seize it. So, well, hey, you know what? Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for spending some time
You're welcome.
with us. I greatly appreciate it. I'm so excited for you. And one thing I can tell you is that one of my long-term goals with inside the Flip to Freedom Academy is to have people, which I think Brian would be great at, is basically take on 5 people that have done at least anywhere from, and whether the number is 5 transactions or 10 transactions, I haven't quite figured that out yet, but at least done 5 or 10 transactions, and then work with them to make them coaches with inside the Flip to Freedom Academy. Because I want someone that's going to knows how to do it, someone that obviously works good with people and wants to build their business all across the entire country as well. So, let's say Brian, he goes out and he establishes that, he knows how to do it consistently and he builds a business consistently. Well, then promote him within inside the academy as a coach, which would be great. Then he can turn around and we can turn around and help more people to go out and change their lives financially by finding properties. And the first step is flipping properties. It's by, getting a property under contract for little or no money out of pocket, nothing out of pocket, because you didn't do any earnest money, just marketing costs, and then getting a contract with a buyer, bring him to a title company and closing it and making a $9,000 check. But think about it. If you can do that 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 times, you can build enough cash flow that then the next step would be to turn around and build cash flow properties. And see, Brian, you're marketing for sellers. You're going to get a deal that comes across that you're going to say, hey, you know what? The seller wants $1,000. There's equity in the property. I can get this deal to cash flow. Maybe I'll just buy it and keep it myself. And then you're going to see stuff like that comes in, and you're going to go, hey, man, I just, you can start building your wealth and build your portfolio that way. So, cool, man. Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate your time, and we will sign off for this episode.